My dad's family grew up around Flat Gap, and
Virginia? Is that near Pound, Virginia?
yeah, it's between Pound and Kentucky. And he was the oldest of 14 children. And he started out with, he went to, he went to what they called Gladeville College at that time up at Wise. And it was probably about like high school now, I guess. And he showed me a mountain on the top of that old pound one time that he had for sauerkraut crop that as a young man. And he also had well, when he and my wife and my mother got married, they had a one room cabin with a dirt floor.
What were their names?
My mother's name was Mary Jane. And
What was her last name, maiden name?
her maiden name was Mullins. She and then he had a little country store for a while, and he was also a deputy sheriff. And this fella came in one time, and of course back in those days, every place had one or two tough guys, bullies and so forth. But nothing like now, where they're all on dope. Anybody kill you now. But anyhow, he was raised drunk, raising Cain. I guess my dad might have been a little bit afraid of him. I don't know. He's a bigger man than he was. Finally, my dad just pulled out his handcuffs and he threw them to the guy and said, "Here." For an instant, without thinking, the guy caught the handcuffs. And while he was catching the handcuffs, my dad pulled his .38 told him to put him on. But he had to walk him 12 miles to put him in jail. On the way, the fellow was complaining about it hurting, and his dad took the handcuffs off him. He jumped off a railroad trestle and got away. So later on, my dad moved from Pound to Norton, and he had a feed store at one time. Of course, back in those days, most people had a cow and a few hogs, and even in town. And but the government was in the Depression, and it started coming out of the Depression because the government was spending money trying to get things going, and a lot of public works. And of course, back in those days, there were a lot of people that would work if they had a job. And so he got into road construction. At that time, I can remember some of the roads that they way back when they were using some horses to build roads.
About what year was that?
Oh gosh, I don't know what year it was. I back in I was born in 25, probably between 30, 33, 4, 5, something like that. And they, like I said, they were building horses, using horses to build roads. And they had steam engines, a little old steam engine, probably a half-yard bucket on it. And they would actually run with steam. And they had tractors, but before they put blades on them, they just used them for pulling the other equipment with. And he was gone most of the time, during the week. They stayed on the road jobs. My sister, she had a place where some of them boarded and some of them roomed. And she done the cooking and all that. But my dad he came home on a weekend. He was the one that dealt out the punishment for the family. My mother would say, "This was done that, and this was done that." Sometimes he'd whip a whole family at one time.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
Well, I had two brothers, one I never saw. He died before I was born. So I had, let's see, 8 sisters. No, 9, 7 sisters. 3 more, 10 in the family. I think later on, some years he made money, and some he didn't. Back in those days, the job didn't state everything. You had so much rock and so much dirt and all that. You had to go out there and look at it and guess what it was. And if you guessed what it guessed wrong, well then, of course, it cost you more to do it. He was a man who loved work. Most people try to say they want education so you don't have to work. But an education is supposed to make you work better, not get you out of work. And, my dad, there wasn't enough hours a day. He loved to work. He liked working.
Was it that, or he just hate being home with all the kids? Was it that, or he just hate being home with all the kids?
No, it wasn't. That's where the work was. You had to go where the work was. If you build a road and 100 miles away, that's where you had to go to build it. And that's what they did. He had, they would get to take sometimes these school teachers and make inspectors out of them. And most of them didn't have the know-how to do their job. And of course, a lot of times my dad was in argument with them. And one time he was down at the field where the dirt was coming in, the field was being put in, and his brother was running the shovel. And the dirt stopped coming, so my dad went up to see what was wrong. And the inspector had him shut down. He asked his brother, well, is you working for me or the inspector? He said, I'm working for you. He said, go to work. So they did. Well, the inspector left, and he came back with a paper to serve on my dad to stop him from working. My dad looked at the paper and looked around at his equipment sitting there doing nothing. And he told the inspector, he said, I think I've got enough money to finish this job, and I'm going to finish it. That when I get through with it, if the state of Virginia don't want to pay me for it, I'll build a gate across both ends of it. And he told him to go back to work. And there was another occasion where...
What was the inspector shutting him down for?
I don't know. Just probably something he didn't know what he was talking about, probably. Anyhow, there was another situation where my dad, after he wasn't an inspector, he was a regional engineer. And another fellow had a job about 10 miles above us. They was making him take steel wool and clean this reinforcement steel and all. There's nothing wrong with that. But he was making my dad clean his, and the guy 10 miles away, they letting him put his in the concrete without cleaning it. So my dad asked him why he had to clean his and the other man didn't. And the engineer told him, said, that's my business. That's when my dad reached through the window, jerked him through the window and broke his jaw. Well, the state of Virginia decided they were going to not let him bid on any more jobs. So this story was told to me by his lawyer, not my dad, that he went to Richmond to meet with Shirley, who was head of the highway department, and the board. And of course they'd heard so much about him, I reckon they expected the pure devil to come in. But he had a lot of dry humor about him, and after talking to him for a while, he had a lot of laughing in a good mood. And finally he told him, said, gentlemen, said, I'm not interested in getting any money from the state of Virginia I don't earn. He was suing him for $1 million. Said, if you were willing to back up and let me bid on this work like anybody else, I'm willing to drop the suit. And they did. and he was back in, and he bidding on jobs again. Most of the roads he built were in Virginia and Tennessee. He never did. He bid on one job in Kentucky, but he never. There wasn't but him and another man that bid on the job, and they agreed. Whoever, they didn't do anything illegal. They agreed that whoever got the job would pay the other $2,000. So the other guy got the job, and my dad got $2,000, but that's the only job he ever bid on in Kentucky. And a lot of things going on over in that country.